Things are happening so fast it's hard to believe what's going on. Listen, who are you going to believe? I believe the scriptures. I believe the witness of God in me that testifies that we are the last generation. I am not going to be a fool and let all this stuff happen around me and put my head in the sand. We're called to warn our brothers and sisters about the reality of what's taking place. And if you want to be ignorant, that's up to you guys. But I suggest you pray and fast, ask God to fill you with supernatural wisdom and understanding, courage to endure until the end, okay? Now, I've showed you videos about the microchip coming. Now the military are getting implanted. I showed you videos about other nations microchipping their top officials in the government positions. What are you thinking? This is all real. It's all true. I don't know how much more evidence I can show you that this is going on. Take a look at this. Maybe this will help. God bless you guys.
The U.S. government is engaged in a large number of secret medical experiments, developing techniques for mind control to create a so-called Manchurian candidate. What is the extent of these brainwashing experiments? How did the CIA become involved in such far-reaching and disturbing research?
The 1962 film The Manchurian Candidate raised the specter of a remote-controlled soldier who was brainwashed by his communist captors during the Korean War. After returning home, is an unwitting assassin programmed to kill a U.S. presidential candidate. It's a chilling plot, and one that seems virtually impossible. Can we really take control of this mysterious wrinkled lump of jelly in our skull we call the brain?
Inside our heads, the nerve cells are all engaged in kind of a telephone-like conversation. One speaking to the next, and as the information is going through, each neuron is listening to all of its neighbors, giving rise to more and more complicated signal processing inside our brains.
But the first critical step to cracking the code of how the brain processes information is being able to listen in on these millions of telephone-like conversations all taking place at once.
Consists of the same electrode array, the baby aspirin-sized 100 electrode array that goes into just the surface of the brain.
This tiny chip monitors 100 different neurons as they fire. The firing pattern is displayed on this grid.
These spikes, these electrical impulses that come up. We know that's a language of the brain.
Believe it or not, as information passes through the brain, the electrical impulses between neurons can be heard. This is the actual sound of a brain neuron firing. So in a way, we can literally hear thoughts. But how do we translate those sounds so we know what the person is thinking? At Brown University, they are working with tiny computer chips that can be implanted into the brain to transmit neuron impulses to a computer for mind-reading interpretation. It's like connecting your iPod to a computer and downloading music. Scientists can now connect your brain to a computer. Connect your brain to a computer.
All right, we're going to investigate Pentagon and their plans to commission DARPA to implant soldiers with microchips. You can go to Google and just type that in. Pentagon has commissioned DARPA to implant chips. And there's a couple of different sites you can read. I'm going to go to InfoWars. Be careful with Alex Jones. He is got bad theology, but he's got great research. So we're going to depend on his research today. And it says right here, DARPA continues to push black box brain chip. Pentagon wants to help soldiers and seniors by implanting devices to trigger memories. And I'm sure that that's all they're telling us about this chip, but we know there's more to it than that. DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, the research arm of the military, is continuing to develop brain chips, according to documents newly posted as part of the agency's increased transparency policy. Yeah, they really want us to know what they're doing. The Defense Advanced Research Project Agency wants to tell us everything they're doing. Right. The agency is seeking to develop a portable wireless device that must incorporate implantable probes to record and simulate brain activity. In effect, a memory-triggering black box device. Now I wonder what else this black box will be able to trigger in your brain. The process would entail placing wires inside the brain and under the scalp with electrical impulses fired up through a transmitter placed under the skin of the chest area. Bloomberg first picked up the story last week, and since then, several tech blogs have jumped on board, describing the technological push as part of a project to help injured soldiers and part an initiative set up by the Obama administration to find treatments for brain disorders such as Alzheimer's. In reality, this project has been going on for years, decades in fact, and given that the Pentagon War Machine is spearheading it with $70 million of funding, one must seriously question why the DoD suddenly gives a hoot about war-wounded vets. They don't care, brothers and sisters. This is just a cover for what they're really using it for. We're going to get a little bit into this video here in a minute, but I'm going to continue reading down at the bottom here. Now this might explain a little bit more about what's really going on. The documents state that rather than aid general memory loss, such a device would enable the ability to recover task-based motor skills. That's right, controlling your members, your arms, your legs, like driving a car, operating machinery, tying shoelaces, flying planes, etc. One has to wonder from this description whether DARPA's brain implant would merely facilitate patching up soldiers and sending them back out on duty as if they were defective robots. Indeed, that is the kind of transhumanism project that DARPA reveals in. Just last year, it revealed that a DARPA team has constructed a machine that functions like a human brain and would enable robots to think independently and act autonomously. And you can continue reading the article. I just wanted to start that off with you and show you what's going on here. They want to build cyborg soldiers, and they want to control human brains and human bodies with technology, and this is going to tie into the microchip implant as well. Let's check out a little bit of this video and see what's going on.
The latest from DARPA saying, well, we do want the troops to have microchips to monitor their health. We care about them. Tell us about that.
This DARPA thing is so freaky. DARPA is, as your listeners are probably aware, the defense research thing here, which is they are the people who put out our tax dollars and then ask for proposals and solicitations from companies out there. And this is why we know about them, because they are required by law to make these public because they're spending public dollars. And they say, here is a request for proposals. Here's what we want to do. We have money. Companies out there, submit back to us, give it your best shot, tell us how you could pull this off, and then we will pay you and give you the contract, and then you develop it, and at that point it becomes top secret and nobody hears about it. But during this solicitation process, if people want to check this out, they can go to darpa.mil. This is called in vivo, meaning in live, living flesh, in actual animals or humans, in vivo nanosensors for diagnostics. It is solicitation number DARPA BAA 1233. So you can find it right there on the darpa.mil website. Again, go through startpage.com, though. And when you get there, I'll just read the quick description. This is the very short summary. They say the goal is to develop biocompatible nanosensors that provide continuous, non-invasive, and highly accurate measurement of a variety of conditions and substances within the living tissue of animals, plants, and insects. Using non-toxic materials, the sensors will permit qualitative and quantitative assessment over large concentration ranges of glucose, lactate, and urea in large molecules. So they're talking nanosensors. They say they're non-invasive, but these things are obviously deep in people's flesh.
I saw the Pentagon new battle suit, and it automatically tests your urine and all this. Stay right there. We're going to come back and get into these. And guys, reprint me those articles from 2 weeks ago about dangerous nanotech is in hundreds of foods and products, because now they're admitting that's getting in people's brains. There's already nanotech in the food we're eating.
They're not going to come one day with tanks and guns and say, hey, get a microchip. It's going to be little by little, and you're going to have, you know, kids 15, 18 years old going, cool, you mean if I have a microchip implant, then I can just ask questions and my Google goggles will just give me the answer?
No, exactly.
Right there,
that's what the Pentagon said decades ago, as you know, is that they would entice people. DARPA said people will basically end up begging for all of this, and then the final pockets of Luddites, Amish, of people like that are already being harassed, it'll be, well, they weren't giving them training, or they weren't giving them access to all this, and then they'll come and be picked up for other reasons. They always phase it in, like the TSA, like everything else.
You know, I talk about on my radio show a lot, Alex, that there's an 80% cutoff, that once you've got 80% of the population doing anything, fill in the blank, whatever it is, then you can force the other 20% to get on board. And I'm already seeing this with the toll transponders, those little things people put, the Fast Pass and Easy Pass things they put in their windshield to go through the tolls. I won't use one. I don't use one. I never will use one. I will take surface streets before I'll use one of those things, because that's an RFID-based spy chip tracking device in your car. However, now that they've got 80% of people on board in many communities around the country, now they're moving to make those mandatory, where you can't even pay cash. There's no option of paying cash. Same thing is true with all of these different technologies. Once 80% of people have smartphones, there's going to be a requirement. You know, just like a Social Security number, you can't get a job without one. So all the holdouts back in the 30s, 40s, 50s who said, oh, that's the mark of the beast, they all had to sign up, or they died off, and then their kids signed up. Same thing is going to happen with the cashless society. Same thing is going to happen with near-field communication cell phone payments. And ultimately, they're pushing for that same thing to happen with the implant. Same thing to happen with the implant. Same thing to happen with the implant.